Hello, everyone. I've done some extensive research regarding Nichol Kessinger's phone activity the days before and the day of Chris Watts' family murders. These next two pieces, I think it came from My Life or something. I found it kind of comical because I believe someone logged in posing as Nicole and said that her religion is Jewish and that she's widowed. And here her title is a homewrecker, and the company is called Hookers Unite. You can't tell me that is not funny, because it did crack me up and I was puzzled at first, but then I realized someone must have been pretending they were her, of course. Now, before I begin, I'm going to show you a couple of things here from the discovery back in September 1st, 2017. Clearly, almost a whole year before these murders even happened, Kessinger is searching on the internet for Shanann Watts. Also, in the discovery, Nichol Kessinger said it wasn't fair to his family for him to have an affair. Nicole still didn't know what was truthful or what was a lie. If she would have known some of this, she would have not engaged in any of this in the first place. And we all know she totally contradicts herself because she did know that he was married and had kids. She knew they were married and she still chose to engage. So this is just bullshit full of lies, just like her mouth feeds off. Now, just to help you guys kind of study them around where they lived in Colorado, this right here down at the bottom is North Glen. She lived in North Glen at the top there where it looked like it looks like the top of a cowboy hat. Okay, she lives on one of those little peaks there in North Glen, and she's very close to Thornton. Now this is Thornton. You see it goes all the way around, almost completely around, halfway around North Glen. So on some of this phone activity, it may say that she's traveling, but it could also be that she was at home, but the cell phone tower had picked up, it pinged in Thornton rather than North Glen. This flag here is her exact address in North Glen, just next to Thornton, which I just showed you. That's her apartment, number 612. This map here is exactly the route that Nichol Kessinger takes from her apartment to work back to her apartment. Some of them are different because she's going from different cities to her work and then back to her apartment. But if you notice here at the top in the middle, it says Frederick. Now, where Frederick is, where the cross is, Shanann's house is over to the left. So that's where their house is, but it's still in Frederick. So as you can see, whenever she takes number one over into Fort Lupton, that means she most likely took Brighton over this way to get to Fort Lupton to go to Platteville. And then when she went home, she went back down to Brighton, and then over here to Henderson at number 5, and then back to her house, Thornton, North Glen, number 6. This is exact directions from Nicole's apartment to Chris Watts' house on 2825 Saratoga Trail. As you see here, it says it takes approximately 19 minutes from her place to his place. So now you can see right here next to Saratoga, across that little yellow line there from I-25 is the town called Frederick, what I was telling you in the previous last picture. So she has to take I-25 to get to their house rather than going the other way that she goes to work. And this is the office that Chris Watts and Nichol Kessinger met at, the Anadarko Petroleum Corporation office. The address is 501 Division Boulevard, Platteville, Colorado, 80651. So you can see now where the Thornton area down is at the bottom, where she would take Henderson to Brighton to Fort Lupton to Platteville, and then all the way back down back to her house. And here are the two different ways she can get to her job from her place. 612 down at the bottom, she can take what I just said, Henderson, Brighton to Fort Lupton to Platteville, or she could just take I-25 up past Frederick, next to that Mead right there, cross over and hit Platteville. But that's not her normal route. That's not the way she goes. Now here I'll give you a little view of her apartment surroundings. Was her address. She doesn't live there anymore, so don't go stalking her there, please. It's 12255 Claude Court, number 612, North Glen, Colorado, 80241. This is the building that her apartment is in. That's the very front of the building, and she's in the middle towards the back. You can see where it's pinpointed there at 612. That's where her apartment was at. Now these next pictures are going to be what the inside of her apartment looked like. So you can kind of get a visual of what her setting looked like, even though the furniture will be probably completely different. I'm not sure if you guys remember in the discovery and what she said on interview that Chris had his workouts at home and she went to a gym. So I'm wondering, this is her clubhouse gym. Maybe this is where she worked out. Now, let's get on with the show. These are coming straight from the discovery. So if you guys need to perhaps look up anything out of here that I have blocked out, you can go do that yourself because it is in the discovery that I have picked out. I've also noted on every single page of these that the ones that I am blocking out, I'm just blocking out for their protection, considering I am putting this on YouTube and I don't want this to come out to be a privacy issue with this video. Now, like I said earlier, it says at the top, Nikki usually takes US 85 North to work every morning. That's Brighton to Fort Lupton to Platteville. And then she could also take the Frederick, which is I-25 North, going to and towards and past Chris's house if she chooses to go that way to work. Now, I have scoped out everybody that are in this call log. So you'll see noted who these people were that she was in contact with and what their backgrounds are. Who is she to Nikki exactly? That's kind of what I wanted to know, to see if there was any other clues that we can hinder up that maybe someone else didn't. So you see she talked to Chris at 5 o'clock in the morning, talked to him for 3 minutes on her way, probably getting ready for work. And then she called Toyota twice while she was at work in Platteville. She has a Toyota, her 4Runner, so that's probably why she probably needed help. And then she calls Jim, her friend that stayed in her apartment, that had the key and everything, you know, infamous Jim. So she talked to him later on for 19 minutes. Most of you know that he is a geologist at Sunburst Consulting, so he is aware of the oil field, like what Nikki and Chris do as well. And considering Shanann was in North Carolina at this time, and there's no late calls here to Chris, I'm assuming that he was probably staying the night over at her house that night. This is proof here that Nikki did have a Toyota because in the discovery, Watts searched and Google topics like touch-up paint bottles, Toyota dealership, Highway 85, and Toyota dealership in Brighton. Kessinger owned a Toyota. Okay, so now you see here, this is the mapping outline of that first call that I just showed you. From her house to Thornton, and then to Platteville, number 2, and then number 3, where she makes her call to Jim, which is in Henderson, which is right down below Brighton. So now you can tell that her path to work was probably to Thornton, Brighton, Platteville, because on her way home, she went Platteville, Fort Lipton, Brighton to Henderson, back to Thornton. Now here are some pictures that I found from Google what the Anadarko building looks like. It is rather large. Now here is the phone information regarding that phone activity I just showed you. This is Christopher Lee Watts' old cell phone number. Considering he's in prison, he does not get that luxury anymore. So here's his information, and then the infamous Jim. Now, I do know his last name, but I'm not going to expose it to YouTube. You guys can find that out yourself, but it's really not that important. There's nothing we need to know about him. A lot of people think that he did have his hand in the murder, but I don't believe that is true. There's no proof. There would be more proof in manipulating Chris with Nicole than there would be any of this Jim, but his real name is James, by the way. Now this is Tuesday, July 17th. I'll show you guys in a minute who these people are with their names and their information. Barbara, her last name used to be Kessinger. I'm not going to give it to you here. Of course, I blacked it out. But she's also known as Nicole's aunt. And this Kaylee woman, I've chalked up to her. She either must be a work associate or a friend. And Lena, her information came up with her phone number, and she works under Anadarko. So of course she is in contact with a lot of people through her old job, I should say, because she doesn't work there anymore. She got fired after this. Anyways, so yeah, as you can see, there's no late call here with Chris, so he's probably staying the night again because Shanann's still away. And look at the cities here. You got Thornton, Longmont, Platteville, Fort Lipton, Thornton, Broomfield, North Glen. So I'll show you the map right now. Okay, so she started here off in Thornton, runs over to Longmont. That's past Frederick. It's basically going around in a circle around Frederick. So Longmont to Platteville, down to Fort Lipton, probably back to Brighton, down to Henderson, to North Glen, Thornton, where she lives, and then she took off again to Broomfield, and then back to North Glen, where she lives. She must have had a lot of errands to run that day, considering she didn't just go to and from work from her house. Now this is the information I gave you on Barbara, which I believe 100% that this is Nicole's aunt. It does show that she is related to Nicole and Dwayne Kessinger, which is her father. And here is Kaylee's information. There's not a whole lot on her. I couldn't find where she worked or anything, so I can only assume she's some type of associate or friend or coworker. This is Lena's information. She is a compliance coordinator and senior environmental health and safety analyst at Anadarko. So she must have worked very closely to Nicole because she was in the safety area as well for Anadarko. And here is a little bit more information about her. Pretty much says the same thing over and over again, just on different websites that I found. And here is Wednesday, July 18th. I'll be showing you in this piece that Chris transferred photos of Nichol to the secret calculator in his phone. Now you can see she talked to Chris a couple of times that morning while she was in Thornton, and when she was at work in Platteville, she talked to this Taylor, which I found. She's either friends with him, he could be from eHarmony, or also a co-worker. And then she's off work. She talks to Chris again while she's in Longmont. And then Frederick. I am assuming around this time she was possibly at his house in Frederick. And then she spoke with Jim after that to Brimfield. And then on her way to Thornton, spoke with Chris for a minute. He was probably on his way over to her house. And then stayed the night since there was no late night call there. Now you can see on that same day, July 18th, he did transfer those images of Nichol, which were semi-nude. But you can tell, and a lot of people said that this picture was not taken in Chris's house, because it does look like the bathroom that Cece was crawling on in that one video. But if she did go to his house that day, this image was actually transferred that morning because it says 9:46 in the morning. So that's not possible. She could have taken it at her house, could have been at his house another time, but most likely it was probably at her house, and he obviously took the picture. So now this is where she went that day. She went from Thornton to Platteville. She probably took the Brighton Fort Lupton way. Then she went over to Longmont, stopped in Frederick, either had a chat or stopped at Chris's house, went down to Brimfield, and then back to her place in Thornton, North Glen. Here is that Taylor's, a little bit of information about him. On to July 19th, that is a Thursday. Again, she spoke to Chris that morning, and then Jim, and then Dwayne, which is her father. If you see, it goes Dwayne with a U and then Dwayne with a W on the documents in the discovery. The police officers did write on there that it was the DU, and then everything that I found on the call logs was with a W. So I ended up changing everything to a W later on in case you get confused about this. And we all know Dwayne is Nichole's father that was there during her interviews. And on this day, Chris logged into Facebook. Now, considering there was no calls when she was at work in Platteville, she went from Thornton to Brimville. I'm assuming she went from there to I-25 past Frederick and then over to Platteville, and then here you could see she went from Platteville when she was working to Fort Lupton, and then Brighton, Henderson, North Glen, Thornton, where she lives. Now here is her father Dwayne's information. You don't really need to read it if you don't want to. I'm not going to read through it, but he does have a very long, extensive resume and background. He seems to be a very smart person. So if you'd like to read it, you can always pause the video, stop it, and then read through his background. Otherwise, I will not be doing so. This is the automobile that he had underneath his name. So the Dodge Dakota that everyone was talking about being there during the murders, that was really not, it was not there. It's actually his Dodge Dakota. It is not Nichole's. Now this is Friday, July 20th. She has her morning call with Chris in Thornton, and she goes all the way up to Longmont, Johnsontown, Fort Collins. Now, being it is a Friday, I'm assuming she was working, but the location maybe after Longmont, I'm thinking maybe she went to work, and then later on she went to that Johnsontown. If she was working that day, or maybe she had the day off, not quite sure with this one. So this Brian guy lives in Akron, Colorado. I'm assuming he's a friend, someone from eHarmony. He does have a girlfriend by his profiles. This other number came up under Catherine and Justin. And Catherine owns GH Enterprises, so she could be some type of associate. And then here we have Kaylee again, which I think she might be a friend or a coworker. And then that last number is unknown. I could not find anything underneath that number. So on this day, and I'll go through the paperwork on this, that Chris logged into his Snapchat and he Googled best beer in Colorado. He also transferred semi-nude photos to Nicole. And assuming that Chris looked up this beer, I'm assuming that him and Nicole went out to dinner that night and there were no late calls to Chris, so possibly he went over and stayed the night at her house again. Now this is a map. It can get a little confusing with this one considering she went from Thornton to Longmont. And then after Longmont, she could have went to Platteville. She could have went to work. And then after work or after Longmont, she could have went to Johnstontown, which is a little bit further up in this map. You can't see it because I tried to stay in the area of the map that they most go in. And then down to that number 4, which is Fort Collins, and it is more further up. And after that, there's no phone calls, so I'm assuming she just took I-25 home or wherever she went with Chris that night if they went on a date. This is from the Discovery on July 20th still, where Watts had logged into a Snapchat, looked under this Toyo page group, Peekaboo, and then where he Googled the best beer in Colorado. Now here is the information for Justin and Catherine, and the information showing that she is possible owner to GH Enterprises. And here is that Brian's information. Not sure where he comes about in her relationship. And it does say that he is in a relationship. So I am assuming and hoping that this guy is not from eHarmony and that he is a possible coworker. Not sure. Now this goes to Monday, July 23rd. She, of course, talks to Chris that morning while she's in Thornton, talks to Jim in North Glen over to Broomfield. And then while she's in Platteville at work, she is calling the sand dunes and a place that does ice fishing. Now, back at her home around that area in Thornton, she calls her father. And then Thornton to Broomfield, she is talking to Chris. Chris had transferred photos of Nicole again in his phone. There was no late call again, so I'm assuming he stayed with Nicole that night. And the day before this day, on July 22nd, Chris had Googled red wine made in Argentina. Now keep that in mind because I have some information that's coming up that may give you a little laugh. So as you can see, this map is a little crazy. She goes from one Thornton to Glen over to Broomfield. She probably took I-25 to Platteville to work, and then back down to Fort Lupton, Brighton, Thornton, and over to Broomfield again, and then probably back on her way home again. Here's the Discovery page where Watts had Googled Spanish dancing near me and red wine made in Argentina. Now remember, he did Google before the best beer in Colorado. Keep this alcohol in the mind. Tuesday, July 24th. She talks to Chris in the morning while she's in Thornton, and then to this Taylor, still in Thornton, and then over to Denver. So in between her talk with Taylor and Chris there, she could have went to Platteville and went to work. Not sure. There's no call in that area, so we'll just chalk it up to that. 8:12 in the morning, Chris transferred over nude photos of Nichol again. 12:17 p.m., Nichol Googled man I'm having an affair with says he will leave his wife. 5:28 p.m., Chris searches for Victoria's Secret at Orchard Town Center. And Taylor is either a friend or eHarmony or a co-worker. And I'm assuming between 5:10 and 7:44 p.m., Chris and Nichol may have went to this Victoria's Secrets, and I have the location address there for you. And there's no late call there with Chris again, so possibly he stayed the night there again. Now I can't really show you much on this map because it only shows her going from Thornton to Denver in between the middle of that day and those calls. She could have went to Platteville, she could have went to work, but this is all I can show you for right now. This is where Nichol searched in the Discovery, and she Googled man I'm having an affair with says he will leave his wife. And here's the location for the Orchid Town Center for Victoria's Secrets. Wednesday, July 25th, she talks to Chris that morning. There's no incoming calls going from where she's going to work there. So in the afternoon, you see her talking to Kaylee going to Fort Lupton way, her usual way, back and forth to work and back to her home. So then she's talking to Chris down in Thornton. So she's either traveling in Thornton or she is at her home, considering the phones will ping in her area very close to the same North Glen or Thornton. So she's speaking here still to Chris and Jim. This day, Chris had Googled when to say I love you. When to say I love you for the first time in a new relationship. And what do you feel when someone tells you they love you? How does it feel when someone says I love you? Now this was between 8:41 a.m. and 12:07 p.m. And then, and this is quoting in the Discovery, they actually wrote this: eerily disconcerting, childlike giggle, voicemail from Nichol to Chris. And Nichol said, I miss your face. I was just calling to say hi. Call me back. Bye. With that childlike giggle. I wish we could hear that. I would die to freaking hear that childlike giggle. It sounds like it would be creepy. Anyways, so there's Kaylee's information, and once again, no late night calls. So I'm assuming he was at her house again. So once again, we have another weird map outlay because she didn't have her phone log into Platteville that day, but she has it going from Thornton over to Fort Lupton. So I'm assuming she went that way, but also went to Platteville, but that's not in the call log. So then she goes from Fort Lupton down to North Glen, Thornton, where she lives. Now this is from the Discovery, where Watts searched and Googled for the following topics: when to say I love you, when to say I love you for the first time in a new relationship, what do you feel when someone tells you they love you, how does it feel when someone says I love you. So this just goes to show that this guy really was a narcissist sociopath that truly has no empathy and is not able to love, especially the way he threw away his children the way he did. So this is just proof that he really does not know what it feels like to love. This is in the Discovery. During the conversation, Kessinger called Watts and left the voicemail following an eerily disconcerting, childlike giggle, she told Watts, "I miss your face. I was just calling to say hi. Call me back. Bye." Thursday, July 26th, she talked to Chris that morning. She's in Thornton, and then she's in Gilcrest, and then into Johnstontown, and then Platteville. So after work in Platteville, it shows no phone activity. And it's either one or the other. Brittany or James has this phone number, or they both share this phone number, or it's under the same family name. It could be. So either one of those. They could be friends or co-workers. At 4:40 p.m., Chris transferred nude photos of Nichol to a secret calculator. This Robert, she calls, could be a friend or family. He does own a business called C's Glass. At 7:13 p.m., Chris Googled lazy dog in Erie, and at 8 p.m. visited myprepaidcenter.com, which services universal prepaid Visa cards with a 5% cash back. Assuming no calls after 4:04 p.m., Chris and Nichol may have went to dinner at the Lazy Dog and possibly back to her house, and or he stayed the night. This map is going to be out of range again, where she goes from Thornton, travels her way up to Gilcrest, which is way higher up past Platteville, and then over to Johnstontown, which is past, you wouldn't be able to see it on this map here. It's a little further up, and then over to work, and then wherever she went after that, I'm assuming she went the Brighton way again. Here's the information from the discovery with the myprepaidcenter.com and what I had said earlier about the 5% back and him transferring nude selfie of Kessinger to a secret calculator application. Friday, July 27th. This is a very empty day of calls during the day. Not sure if she went to work that day or not because there's no calls coming in or out. The first call came in at 6:20 p.m. So that was Jim, and then to Chris the whole time. She's in the Thornton area, so it's possible she could have been home all day or just not made any phone calls while she was working that morning during the early afternoon. So at 8:48 p.m., Chris Googled for prices on wine bottle openers. And considering there's no late calls again, Chris could have stayed the night. And then tomorrow, on Saturday, Chris and Nichol go camping in the sand dunes that she had called previously. This is in the discovery where Watts had Googled the prices for wine bottle openers. And I'm assuming they took wine over to the sand dunes that next day on the 28th when they went to the Great Sand Dunes. Remember I told you to remember the alcohol situation? Well, this is why I'm telling you to remember that. Because as you see here, 4:59 p.m., now this is the weekend after the sand dunes, Nichol called this number, the 0025 number. I looked it up, and it is a sober living house. It's called Hazelbrook Sober Living. And she talked to them from her area where she lives and spoke to them for 22 minutes. What she spoke of, I'm not sure. But that just goes to show you everything I've already told you about the alcohol situation. Maybe she knows that they both might have a problem. So this is Monday, July 30th. She spoke to Chris that morning, and then that's in Thornton, and then over to Broomfield, Platteville to work, which she spoke to Juan and Irene, which I believe those are her aunt and uncles, because in their information it does state that they are related to her dad. So then she calls Toyota again, Kaylee again, Chris again. Now she's in Thornton, Chris, Jim, Chris, Barbara, which is her aunt. Now at 4:43, see that it's highlighted up there with the green boxed around? That's when she called and left Chris another creepy giggles asking him to call her back, and that is in the discovery again. Okay, so this is right before she calls this sober living house. So, I don't know. Take it what you will. And then once again, there's no late calls with Chris at night, so possibly that they stayed together. Now here were her travels for that day. She went from Thornton to Broomfield over to Platteville, Brighton, Thornton, North Glen, and then that's where she stayed for the night. This is from the discovery again. When Kessinger called Watts and left a voicemail, they wrote, intermixed with her creepy giggles, she asked Watts to call her back. Voila! Here is the Hazelbrook Sober Living, Colorado that she called. We pride ourselves in lasting recovery. I'm going to be making another video in the future. It's going to be very short, but you're going to want to listen to this because it gets even better than this phone call. So make sure you subscribe and watch out for that. Now here is Juan and Irene's information. And you can see Kessinger used to be her last name, so she is probably related to Nichol and the dad, making her the aunt possibly. Tuesday, July 31st, 4:46 in the morning. Chris is on his airplane getting ready to go to North Carolina. 4:52, Chris deletes Nichol's contact information from his phone. 4:58, you could see he called her before leaving. 10:18, Chris arrived in North Carolina. At 3:39 and 10:19, Chris made calls to Nichol while around Shanann and the girls. Now going to the phone activity, it's a Tuesday, so she was working. She went from Thornton to Fort Lipton again, to Platteville to work, down to Brighton, down to Henderson, down to Thornton again. So you can see this is her pattern going to and from work. Frederick is not where she normally would go. We'll see that in a few minutes. Now this Catherine I found, she used to be in a local band, but now she works for E&P sales representatives at Waste Connections. So for some reason, maybe friends, maybe associate, maybe something for work, but she is calling for waste management. I'd actually like to know what that phone call was about, if it was regarding work or not for Anadarko, because you know Chris threw his old clothes in that one dumpster. Nichol could have been asking this woman, you know, when the garbage picks up, because remember they went back to that garbage can and it was emptied. It had been emptied. So if Nichol did know about the murder, she could have told Chris, well, go this one. It'll be too late by the time cops get there, if they get there the next day, because the evidence will be removed. And actually that would make sense, because look, she did call Catherine at 8:57 in the morning while she was in Fort Lipton. So it's possible that didn't have anything to do with Anadarko at all. So that's really something to ponder on. And then she calls Jim, that James or Brittany possible co-worker, business associate, and then Taylor, and then the Assyrian insurance. Not sure what that's about as well, but she is still driving to work during these calls. Now this Kelly she spoke to here, I found that this woman owns this trucking business. It's not like oil trucks or anything like that. It's mainly like flatbeds and dump trucks. So I'm not sure what that call would be regarding, but it's kind of ironic. She has all these really weird phone calls before she gets to work, unless she has something to do before work. It's just ironic that this is happening the day Chris goes to leave. So then she talks to Chris while she's at work, Jim later on her way home from work, and then to Chris when she's at home. And here's the map of the route she took. You can see number 1's Thornton, over to number 2 at Fort Lipton, Platteville to work, down to Brighton, Henderson, and Thornton. Wednesday, August 1st. Now you can see there's a lot more activity since Chris has been gone to North Carolina. So once again, we have her taking the same pattern to and from work. Thornton, she's talking to Barbara, which is her aunt. She seems to confide in her a lot. This Linda and Richard. Richard used to own an insurance company, but that was dissolved a long time ago. And then she talks to Jim in Fort Lupton. Linda and Richard, again, not sure if they're associates or co-workers or some sort of family related. She's talking to them and Stephanie, her sister, while at work. Kaylee down in Thornton, where she lives. The other number is unknown. Now that police department number she called is Eaton Police Department. Not sure why she would be calling them, because that is way above Platteville, even past Johnstontown. So it's pretty far. Maybe she was calling to get advice from some place that was far away from their town to get advice on aftermath of murder. All right, so she has 2 incoming calls that seem to be scam numbers. And she talks to her father while in her home area, Jim. She calls that same police number again that's in Eaton. So that's kind of bizarre. And then she speaks to Jim again, and she did not talk to Chris that night. So here was her map pattern. Number 1, Thornton to Broomville, Fort Lupton, Platteville. I believe that was Henderson or Thornton. Yeah, it was Thornton, and then Glenville down to Denver. Thursday, August 2nd, Chris added the photo of a necklace for Nichol to his secret calculator. That might have been the necklace that was in her photo that she did for the news when she first came out speaking upon herself as a victim. Along with 8 nude selfies of Nichol she sent to him while in North Carolina. Now she starts her phone calls from Platteville, so she didn't make any phone calls to Platteville to work. And then she goes from Platteville to North Glen, Broomfield, North Glen, Thornton at home. So she talks to that tailor again while she's in Platteville. So I'm assuming he is some type of co-worker, associate. And then she speaks to Jim throughout the day and then Chris at night for 82 minutes while he is with his family in North Carolina. So you see number one starts at Platteville and then goes down to Brighton area to North Glen, over to Broomfield in North Glen, Thornton area. I put that extra line in there because that's probably the route that she took that morning going to work. Here's the necklace I was speaking about. I'm not sure if he actually bought that for her or not, or if that is the one that she was wearing in the interview. The circle at the bottom doesn't really look like the circle that she had on during those photos. Friday, August 3rd, Chris transferred 3 more photos of Nichol, and she starts off in Platteville, Thornton to Denver, talks to Linda or Richard, Barbara, her aunt, Jim, and then Chris at night. And here's her map pattern. Number 1 started off at Platteville with the phone calls, down to Brighton number 2, and then 3 to Denver, and then that other line is probably the way she took to work as well, because that is her pattern to work. Saturday, August 4th, at 12:45 in the morning, Nichol Googled for wedding dresses for 2 hours. 2 p.m., Nichol Googled Chris and Shanann's Facebook accounts. Shanann's Facebook is open to the public. She had to have seen Shanann was pregnant. She must have had no compassion while destroying a family. Now keep in mind, this is Saturday. I'm adding in the weekends now as it gets closer to the murders, not just work. Because I wanted to see where her phone calls were coming from, what she was doing. So she starts off with talking to her dad in Denver. She speaks to Jim and Aurora, her dad, Aurora, Thornton, Jim and Thornton, Broomfield. Chris at night for 42 minutes while she was home, probably in Thornton, and then Jim again. Now this Sasha, I found she owns her own salon and spa, so she might be a client. Maybe considering, actually this makes total sense, considering that she was looking up wedding dresses, maybe she was planning her appointment to get her hair and makeup done for their wedding. Sunday, August 5th was a calm day. She didn't have much activity. Looks like she stayed at home, depending on if she traveled around Thornton or North Glen, because that is her ping location there. So she talked to Jim, her Aunt Barbara, and then Chris at night for 89 minutes. Monday, August 6th. This is 1 week before he murdered his family exactly. On August 4th, Nichol Googled for 2 hours wedding dresses, which we already noted that, but that has to be explained again. So, and then the Facebook accounts. So she was at work, so she went from Platteville to Thornton. I don't need really to do a map on that because I'm sure you guys have gotten the gist of her mapping, and she didn't go very many places. So she talked to Jim and Chris, and by this time Shanann was trying to get the truth out of Chris. He didn't want the baby. He told her that by now. She begged him for affection, but he said this will all get fixed, while transferring photos of Nichol and Googling the distance between the moon and the earth. Here's proof that she Googled wedding dresses on August 4th. Also, keep in mind, this was in the discovery. It says Chris and Nichol had discussed long-term plans. She asked him if he did not have a big house, what would his house look like? Chris said he would have a smaller ranch. They agreed to have more of a simple life. Chris and Nichol talked about marriage offhand these were not deep conversations. Obviously, that is false. She once again had lied to detectives, saying that these were not deep conversations, but she's looking up wedding dresses and possibly planning to get her hair and makeup done for their wedding. So here it is in the discovery. Kessinger searched Google for Watts and Shanann's Facebook accounts. So also in the discovery, Shanann told Watts, I was trying to get you to fucking hug me. Make me feel safe. This is much deeper than lack of conversation. Make me feel like everything is going to be okay. Watts replied, it will be okay. This will all get fixed. Shanann responded, no, I don't need words, damn it. You just told me you don't want this baby. Watts replied to this, I am scared, okay? You wanted the truth and I told you how I felt. Shanann replied, you hold me after a conversation. You hold me. If you want this fucking thing to last, you make me feel safe after that bomb. Don't you get it? Shanann added, how many times do I have to ask you to hold me? You hate me that much? Watts eventually replied and said, I don't hate you. I will fix this. It will be better. Shanann noted, you didn't answer me, and added, I'm begging you to hold me and you still can't. Watts replied, I don't know where my head is at. I will fix it though. Shanann wrote, this isn't the only thing. This doesn't get your head all screwed up. Something's changed in the last 5 weeks. Something you won't say. Poor Shanann was so confused. And he's talking about fixing it, and all he wants to do to fix it is to murder all of them and get rid of his family so he can be with this schlub. Tuesday, August 7th, Chris returns home with his family. Chris told his boss that they are having problems and he may stay with a friend. Shanann confided in her friends Chris is making her feel unsafe after telling her he didn't want the third baby. Now, from Platteville to Broomfield, not many calls here. She talks to Jim and then she calls another police department, which is in North Glen, around in her area. So I made this simple map just going from her house in North Glen, Brighton, and then Platteville. Then she went over to Broomfield, so nothing much to see there. And then the North Glen Police Department, there's their information and the phone number that she called. Wednesday, August 8th, Chris is back to work. Shanann and Chris's ultrasound for the gender of the baby. 7:25 p.m. Nichol Googles marrying your mistress. Shanann cancels the gender reveal because she's so upset that he doesn't want the baby. Chris refuses her couples counseling, and Chris told Shanann he's going to work it out. So Nichol goes, talking to Chris in Fort Lupton, going to work. And then she doesn't make another phone call until 7. So she must have been leaving work at that time. She goes to her hometown in Thornton, North Glen, and talks to Chris. And Shanann would be home at that time. And this is 5 days before he murdered his family. So her call starts at number 1 Fort Lupton, going down into the Brighton area, down to Thornton, North Glen, and then Thornton. So she must have been traveling through there. The other line is showing the way that she would have went to work if she made calls through that area. And from the discovery, where Kessinger Googled topics related to marrying your mistress. Thursday, August 9th, 4 days before he murdered his family, Chris takes the day off work so Shanann can fly to Arizona. At 11:44 a.m., Shanann posts the wrapped doll on Facebook that Chris sent her, the cryptic doll wrapped in the sheet, like he did to Shanann, giving her a red flag. Chris then deletes his Facebook account At 1:44, Shanann asked him why he deleted his Facebook account. He logged into his Instagram and he transferred 6 semi-nude photos of Nichol. Now her call log here from Platteville to Thornton, not very many calls that day. And this Chad I looked up, he does work for Anadarko and he seems to be higher up in the chain. Friday, August 10th, 3 days before he murdered his family. Shanann left for Arizona around 6:20 a.m. She texted Chris and thanked him for letting her hold him. So now he's trying to make her feel comforted. That way when she comes back, she'll feel comfortable enough to come home and then he can slay her. 9:24, Chris asked Jeremy if his daughter could babysit the girls the following day. 1:50 p.m., Chris' dad asked him if he deleted his Facebook, and he said, "Yes, sir, liberated myself." So her calls go from Platteville to Brighton to Thornton. So she traveled that way again, and then she went to Denver. So this John guy must be some type of co-worker or associate. And then we have Robert, Catherine, Justin, Kaylee, Catherine, Justin, Kaylee. Larry is actually a petroleum geophysics, so he's way up in the chain, but I believe he also works in Texas. So that was definitely about work, but also you see Larry, she called in Brighton. So is she also working off the clock when she's calling these people while not in Platteville? I'm not sure of that. Or maybe she had a safety question for him to prepare Chris and a safety issue to dump his family there that morning. Saturday, August 11th, 2 days before he murdered his family. 9:30 in the morning, Nichol Googled how to prepare for anal sex and the anal sex guide. She went to Pornhub and then Googled threesomes with double penetration. So she was preparing herself for that night with Chris. At 1:39 p.m., Chris Googled Toyota dealerships, trying to probably help Nichol. 4:25 p.m., the babysitter showed up so Chris can have his last date with Nichol. At 10 p.m., Chris leaves Nichol's house. Now, she did say that they had sex before they left and sex after their date. So there's that. And then 10:04, Nichol was online Googling Chris Watts, Shanann Watts, Ronnie Watts, and 2825 Saratoga Trail. Now, being this is the last date before he murders his family, it makes me wonder what kind of conversations they were having. She did tell the detectives they did have certain conversation, but she did not go into detail, and there was only like one explanation. I'm sorry, but if you're with a person for like 4 hours, you're gonna have more to talk about than one little conversation. Especially after she goes home after their date and she's sitting here Googling his family and their address to where he's going to murder his family. So this entire day, she seemed to stay in her area. She talked to Chris, Jim, her aunt, and her sister. And then Chris at night while Shanann was away to Arizona. Now here in the discovery, it says at 9:30 in the morning, With anticipation for her evening with Watts, Kessinger spent 45 minutes searching Google on topics like how to prepare for anal sex, the anal sex guide. This progressed to searches at Pornhub and interracial porn videos and threesomes with double penetration. Now, he noted here in the discovery this was by no means the only time she sought out pornographic videos via the internet. Now, this piece of the discovery says Kessinger last saw Watts in person on Saturday, August 11th, 2018. Watts and Kessinger went out to dinner at the Lazy Dog restaurant near Interstate 25 and 144th Avenue. Kessinger believes they met at approximately 5 or 6 p.m. and she was home around 10 p.m., possibly sooner. Watts had hired a babysitter to watch his daughters until 10 p.m. And again, in the discovery, on Saturday, they went to the Lazy Dog at 144th and I-25. They went to another Lazy Dog at 120th and Federal prior, but did not eat there. Chris never mentioned a Rockies game that night. He got a young babysitter that night who was 17 years old and could only stay until 10 p.m. He came to her home at about 5:30 p.m. They drove her truck, Toyota 4Runner, to dinner. He left to be home by 10. He text messaged her later that night and said he had stopped on the way home to get cash to pay the babysitter. During their dinner on Saturday, they discussed fitness. This is what I was talking about. They only discussed fitness for this entire time. Because Chris lost 13 pounds during that time, they were dating. She had no concerns that he was using any other drugs. Shanann was in Arizona on August 11, 2018. Chris told Nichol she was on a business trip. He said she was coming home really late on Sunday. In the other piece, Chris and Nichol were last intimate at her home on Saturday, August 11, 2018. They were intimate when Chris picked her up prior to going to the Lazy Dog and immediately following getting back to her home from the Lazy Dog restaurant. Boom. So she said a couple of times that she took her vehicle, but then really he took Shanann's car, picked Nikki up, and then took her to the restaurant and then back to the house. And they had sex both times. Now, if you think about it, Chris probably left the girls' car seats in the back of the vehicle during this time with his mistress. That was probably just a pun that they could just laugh about later, right? Now, another one, she stated Saturday, August 11, 2018, Chris drove to her home in his Lexus. They went to the Lazy Dog bar at 120th and Federal, Westminster, Colorado, and chose to leave this location to go to another Lazy Dog bar at 144th Avenue and I-25 in Erie, Colorado. They drove Nichole's Toyota 4Runner to both locations. After having a meal at the second Lazy Dog, they returned to Nichole's home. Chris left her home in his Lexus. Now here from the discovery page, it says 22 hours. Watts told Jeremy that he would be home in 20 minutes. So at 10 o'clock, he told Jeremy he would be there in 20 minutes when he was supposed to be there at 10 o'clock so his daughter, who was babysitting the girls, would go home. And considering at 10:04, Nichol was looking up their names and their address, so they ran a little late during their sexcapades, and he didn't leave till 10. And remember, at the beginning of this video, I had put the address from her place to his place. It would take about 20 minutes to get there. So that's why he told him 20 minutes. But then in this call log, this call activity, it says that he called her at 10:31 p.m. So by the time he got there and got settled in, he was able to call her straight away. Now here's proof of that in the discovery. Jeremy Lindstrom, in this discovery piece, it says McKenna, who babysat for Chris on Saturday while Chris was at the Rockies game. Jennifer said she dropped her off at 16:25 hours and left the house to pick her up around 2200 hours. As Chris said, he'd be home around then. Jennifer arrived about 10 minutes later and Chris was not home yet. She waited in the car with her sleeping son, and around 22:30 hours, Chris arrived home. She said Chris pulled into the driveway and she doesn't believe he knew she was in the car. Jennifer said Chris was driving the white Lexus SUV. Jennifer said that when McKenna left, she came on the front door and the dog followed her out. So it shows that he did come in at 10:30, and then immediately after is when he called Nichol at 10:31. Sunday, August 12th, just hours before he murdered his family, at 10:51, Nichol texts her friend Charlotte about the girls and Chris for the first time. 6:47 p.m., Chris cooks 4 chicken breasts on the grill. 9 through 11 p.m. is where the conversation states him going to the field the next morning. Now, in her car log, she's staying around her house and she only talks to Chris and Jim. And she speaks to Chris that night for over an hour. And after she speaks with Chris during this time, there was no activity after that until 6:16 in the morning, the one and only time her phone had pinged in Frederick. The mornings of the murders is what I'm talking about. The following day, on Monday. So at 5:48 in the morning on Monday, Chris left with their bodies on Monday. And then 6:16 a.m. Monday, Nichole's phone pinged in Frederick. And then remember that neighbor lady who also said she's seen the smaller truck parked in between the road, in between Chris's truck and her driveway. So in the discovery, she recalled on Sunday, August 12th, Chris went to the birthday party with the kids. She recalled that the kids had a water balloon fight. She did not know to whom's house he went to. Nichol said that she went to the Denver Museum Nature of Science on Sunday with her family, and she never saw Chris on Sunday. There's a gap in her phone activity of time frame that she possibly could have gone to that museum with her family. Also in the discovery, they said that they discussed the phone call between Nichol and Chris between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. on Sunday night. She was not certain what they had talked about during this call. She recalled hearing a television during the call. I feel like that's a distraction from what they were really talking about during that 2-hour call. And she was trying to deflect by saying that she heard a television, which was unusual because usually he's in the basement and there's no TV in the basement. And she was concerned with why he was watching it. So she deflected what their conversation really was about, and it could have been about the murder of his family. It's stated here in the discovery, I inquired with Nichol about her friend Charlotte. A text message was located between Charlotte and Nichol that appeared to reference Nichol dating another person. Charlotte is engaged and is her closest friend. Nichol said she never dated any other person, and Chris would have no reason to think she was dating anyone else. She said Chris was never jealous about her seeing anyone else. She said she had talked with other men on eHarmony, but never dated any of them. And she stated during this call, he told Nichol that he had to go to the field, not the office, on Monday morning. He said he had to go check on the valve where there was a release. He said he would not see her in the morning. She said this is not uncommon, but typically he goes into the office. She said usually 3 to 4 days a week he goes into the office. So this was probably part of their plan to come up with this plan on the reason why he was going out there. She's giving them enough reason on what they talked about, why he wasn't going to be going in the office, therefore deflecting conversation about what he really may have talked to her about with murdering his family. Monday, August 13th, the day of the murders. This is the first time Nichole's phone pinged in Frederick at around Chris's house. And ironically, it's the morning that he murdered his family, directly after he left with their bodies. At 5:18, Chris starts his work truck. 5:27, Chris backs into his garage. And see here, she goes from 6:16 in Frederick, and then no other call until 2:28 when she's at work. I'll be showing you the clip of the neighbor also in this video that states she's seen the other little red or gray truck, which could have been Nichole's truck. And Nichol had clocked out at 3 p.m., but nothing in the discovery states what time she clocked in from a time card. So no one knows what time she actually clocked in that morning, if she was late to work, if she was on time since she was in Frederick. She said she called Chris around 4, but it shows it was at 5 p.m. Nichol lies about when she found out Shanann was pregnant. Nichol asked Chris what he had done to his family. Nichol told Chris to pawn Shanann's wedding ring. Nichol spoke of marriage offhanded, not deep conversations, but Googled wedding dresses. Nichol now says Chris picked her up for dinner, sex before and after. Nichol deleted 3 phone calls to and from Chris on Murder Monday. Tuesday, August 14th, 1 a.m. in the morning. Tuesday, Nichol Googled Shanann Watts. 9:29 a.m., Chris transferred a semi-new photo of Nichol. 12:08 p.m., Nichol Googled for 4 hours and deleted all of these searches that pertained Watts, news outlets, news accounts of Shanann's disappearance. 5 p.m., Nichol Googled and deleted these searches of can cops trace text messages? How long do phone companies keep messages? And the difference between text content and text message detail. And at 6:21 p.m., Nichol searched the internet and deleted for Shanann's name, This happened a lot throughout the next several days and deleted every single one of them. Also, in the discovery, Nichol asked Chris to delete his text messages to keep their relationship a secret from his friends. Nichol told Chris to contact her when his family is found. Nichol said she questioned Chris on what he had done, and he said he had done nothing. Nichol texted Chris and asked if he had done something bad. He was going to ruin his life and her life. But she doesn't seem to care about Shanann's or the girl's life. Chris responded saying he had not hurt his family. Nichol said this was their last text message on Tuesday. Here's the map outline going from Thornton and North Glen, where she lives, up to Frederick, and we know she never goes that way in the morning. Not once did she ever hit the Frederick area in the morning, but did on Murder Monday. So that's number 1 at 6:16 a.m. in the morning. Number 2 is at Platteville, back down to Brighton, number 3, and then back to her hometown, number 4. This is all the areas where her phone could have pinged. So if she was traveling like she normally does, you could see Henderson at the bottom, Brighton, Fort Lupton. If she was there, she would have pinged in Fort Lupton like she always does. And then there's only a couple over here by Frederick. So if she was in the corner where Shanann lives, her phone would have pinged off to the right of one of those Frederick areas where the poles were. So yes, that is proof that she was in that area at the time of their murders. From the discovery, Nichol recalled next talking to Chris on Monday, August 12th, which they messed up on that date. It's supposed to be the 13th, not the 12th. She said she did not hear a lot from Chris that day. He texted and said it was a busy day. Nothing he said was alarming that day. She said she left work at 3 p.m. according to her time card. She returned home to the good friend Jim. She refused to provide his last name and said he does not know anything about this event and does not know Chris. Jim was her house guest on Monday. She said Jim was a very close friend, but they did not date each other. So like I said earlier with that time card, it says she left work off her time card at 3 p.m., but it does not state what time she got there in the morning for work.
For over the last, 2 days, 3 days, odd vehicles, odd noises, odd lights.
There was a truck out here yesterday. In fact, that's why I thought you were here yesterday. Maybe someone complained about that I hadn't seen before.
What type of truck?
It was kind of almost a steel gray. Don't ask me to make
Okay.
year. But that was late afternoon. The dad has a great big truck and it's gray. But this one was smaller.
Okay.
This one was smaller.
Then
But I hadn't seen it before, so I...
any markings or stickers or anything that would be weird? You wouldn't by chance remember if the plate was green or red or...
No, I kind of just I don't
glance
pay
at
any attention because I believe he owns his own business or something because he always has a truck parked there, so kind of...
I gotcha.
I just kind of noticed it wasn't the normal truck.
Was it dirty by any means?
No, it wasn't. And it couldn't have been that old.
Okay. How long was the truck sitting there?
I saw it yesterday morning around 5:15 a.m. because I go to the gym then.
Okay.
It was still there when I got back at 6:45, and then it was there around, I think, noontime.
Okay.
And the reason I mention it is it was gone by the time you guys left yesterday.
Okay. Well, did you see the police in the area while that truck was still here?
See, I can't see it from my house.
Gotcha.
So, it could have been gone by then.
Okay.
But, over there because normally you hardly ever see anyone go in, come out. Now, I saw his truck leave yesterday, maybe it was this morning. I was leaving for the gym. His truck had the lights on, which is unusual for that morning, 5:15 in the morning. Only fools like me are up.
So you don't usually see him leave at that time of day? Oh, was that the gray truck, or what truck was that?
That was his regular truck. It's a pretty big truck. Maybe, what could I compare it to? An F-250, 350, the big ones, yeah.
And that steel truck, is that like a pickup or a
Pickup.
pickup truck?
Yeah.
Is that a camper or anything? Camper shell or anything on the back of it? Would you say it's bigger than that truck?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Did it have 2 or 4 doors to go?
No, I don't. I never paid a bunch of attention,
Okay. That'll
to be
work.
honest.
And so, was it yesterday morning, Monday morning that you went to the gym?
I go every day.
Okay, so then, if you can remember yesterday morning going out, was there...
That's when I noticed the little truck.
Okay, and where was it? Was it in the driveway or on the street?
No, it was on the street. It was between the two houses, right about in front of my tree,
Okay.
He said it's a little truck or the,
It's a smaller truck than what's normally there.
okay, like that size or smaller?
No, maybe that size.
Maybe that size? Okay.
No camper,
And that was the gray one?
yeah.
And you think his normal truck's like the 2500
Yeah,
or
it's a
3500?
bigger truck.
But both gray?
Yeah, but different shades of gray.
Okay. The other littler one, was it darker or lighter?
I believe it was lighter.
Okay.
So more like a steel gray.
Yeah, and the other one's darker. Maybe a hint of green in the gray. Yeah, but I haven't, except for this morning, come to think of it, I haven't seen a lot of the big trucks. Is that what you're finding? You haven't seen, I mean, not that I want to wake at 5 in the
Right,
morning,
right.
but, you're making me think that I did see the truck, I believe it was this morning, because the lights were turned on. And I was pulling, you have to be careful coming out of here, because it's kind of a three-way mess if you're all going the same
Yeah.
place. But I noticed that the back lights were on. But,
That was around 5:15 this morning?
yeah, I leave 5:15 every morning.
And that's kind of odd for him.
Well, not often do I see the lights that early. But then he could leave at 5:20 and I would not know it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
See him leave sometimes in the morning to go to work? You ever...
Not,
So now you can see what she was talking about. I mapped it out. The red box is her driveway. This is where the red car came out when he first came out to start his truck that morning. And she said that she's seen his lights and he was parked in front of the blue box there. In between the orange and the blue box is where Chris was parked with his bigger truck, as she explains. And she couldn't see real well at the little small truck, but she knew it was there. It was a lighter color. We've known Nichol Kessinger to have a smaller gray truck. It was a Toyota. So she explains that she could barely see it through the tree. So that puts her truck right there. She said it was in between both of the houses. And then you see the where Chris's truck was in the driveway when he put his family in the truck to take off. And then the pink doorbell cam is where Shanann came home. That was the last time she was seen. And then the surveillance, the white, is where the video was taken of him and those stupid trees that were in the way that we couldn't see. Now here's the information regarding the pawning of the ring. Nichol recalled another conversation on August 13th, Monday. Chris told Nichol Shanann left her wedding ring at the house. Chris asked Nicole how much she thought the ring was worth. She responded by telling him to pawn it. He said he was going to get the ring appraised. Chris also mentioned North Carolina, and he wanted the separation, and previously had said Shanann wanted the separation. Now, why would Nicole, being that his family is only missing, okay, so let's pretend like he didn't murder his family for a second, and Nicole only knows that his family is missing. Why would she tell him to pawn the wedding ring? If him and Nicole were not going to get away as, husband and wife, Nicole and Chris, why would she tell him that if she didn't know Shanann was already gone? Because if they didn't have such strong future plans together, she could have thought, well, hey, Shanann might come back home. Maybe they will fix their marriage, and then she'll have her wedding ring back. But no, she's telling him to pawn it to see how much it's worth. And then that money would obviously go towards their wedding and her wedding dress. So this was pretty much truth enough. I feel that she knew all of this was going down, because if I was having an affair with a man who was married and all of a sudden they disappeared and I knew nothing about it, I would say, maybe hold on to it. Maybe you guys will get together again. Maybe you guys will fix your marriage like Nicole said she originally wanted them to. So you can see here, Chris Watts at 5:48 in the morning left his home with the bodies of his family piled in the back seat of his truck. Okay, now this time I want you to pay attention to the pregnancy when Nicole found out. She kind of contradicts herself within the different stories that she told. So first, this one says, Nicole found out Shanann was pregnant via the newspaper articles on Monday or Tuesday. Now, being that this is like a big event that went down Monday, you should have known the difference between which day it was, I would think. But because she's lying through her teeth, she decides to throw either one of them out there to throw them off her trail. So she says she did not know this prior, which if she was looking at her Facebook pages, that she would have known. And Nicole thought that if he could lie to her about this, what else could he lie about? This made her think about his wife being in danger, I'm sure. She deleted all the information on her phone, call and text logs, that had anything to do with him. She was grossed out by him, so she deleted all his stuff. It was the hurt that made her delete it, and it was the lie that made her come forward. But she only came forward after the manager came out and exposed both of them with their emails that were through the company email. So he told her he was in the midst of a divorce, and then she found out that his wife was 15 weeks pregnant and she was hurt. She said a few more things to him, and she just cut him out of her life. She did not care about Shanann being pregnant. She did not care about Shanann or the girls. So this being the pregnancy, I don't think that she would even care about, because she should have already known. So in this one, at the middle of the first paragraph, it says, he said she woke up and they got into an argument and she was being pretty mean. She told Chris that she is pregnant and said the kid was not his. Nichol said he was playing like he did not know Shanann was pregnant, even though she was 15 weeks pregnant. So now she's throwing Chris under the bus and pretending like he was playing that he didn't know that she was pregnant, but they both knew. They both knew she was pregnant. So Nichol asked Chris if he believed Shanann was pregnant, as she did not find out until Tuesday in the media she was. So now she changed her story. It went from newspaper to Monday to Tuesday. Now it's Tuesday from the media. And Chris said she was showing in North Carolina. Nichol said Chris was just saying all of this stuff to lie to her and protect their relationship. So on Tuesday, during her lunch break, she reviewed the media and found Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant. She said she was concerned because of a 4-month pregnant woman would be showing, and she knew Chris was lying. So here's another piece from the Discovery, which also states that she had seen media reports about the pregnancy associated with the missing persons reports on August 14th, which was Tuesday. So there's 3 different stories that say Tuesday, and then that first one was from newspapers Monday to Tuesday. The other ones were media. So this one specifically states Watts told Kessinger that he had a conversation with his wife the morning of August 13th, 2018. Watts' wife had text message Watts asking him to wake her up before he went to work. Watts' wife told Watts that the baby she was carrying was not his. She told Watts that she would be taking the kids that day. Watts did not describe any arguments that day to Kessinger. So that means if Watts sat here and told Kessinger at the top of this paragraph on the 13th, that's the day of the murder, then she found out he told her that she was pregnant. So that means that she never found out through media. He told her on the 13th all of this. I mean, come on. So there's 4 different stories on that. 3 are pretty much the same. First, she says the newspaper articles that was either told to her or she read Monday to Tuesday. And then she found out she was pregnant Tuesday through the media. And then again Tuesday during her lunch through the media. And then again the next time was Tuesday through media reports. But now Chris told her on 8/13. So not sure which one is true, but I strongly believe she knew that Shanann was pregnant and she did not care about any of them. Now this is what I was talking about earlier. These are all from the Discovery, and you can see that she had deleted all of them from her phone. This is where Kessinger spent nearly 4 hours searching Google for the internet for Watts, news outlets, and news accounts of Shanann's disappearance. deleted. You know, come to think of it, she had told them that she deleted everything of him out of her phone, like the contact information and text messages, because she wanted nothing to do with him. She basically erased him from her life. And if she's so innocent, why is she deleting also what she's Googling? I mean, this should be a concern. This should be a good thing that she's looking for things surrounding Shanann's disappearance. These should be a good things, not bad things. This has nothing to do with him per se. Now here, Nichol asks Chris to delete his messages to keep their relationship secret from his friends, which that's not all true, not from his friends. She wanted from his family that he just murdered, and she knows that. Here's Nichol. She made 2 unanswered calls to Watts. Watts then made an unanswered call to Kessinger. Then Nichol called Watts and they held a 51-minute conversation, and all 3 of those were also deleted along with her Google searches. Here's in the discovery where she Googled topics like, can cops trace text messages? How long do phone companies keep text messages? Difference between text message content and text message detail. So she's telling him to delete everything. That way their friends don't find out, but she's really keeping this. That way cops and detectives don't figure her out. But deleting things now, she knows from these Googles that it's not possible for them to be deleted completely. Now this one's going to be about social media accounts with Nichol. She said here she doesn't have social media accounts, so there is nothing else on her phone. There's nothing else on her phone that can help, just texting and phone logs. They forgot to put Google searches. This one also says Kessinger does not maintain social media accounts. She has work and personal email accounts, but communication with Watts with these accounts was minimal. And that's how she was exposed, through her work emails with Chris. Now this one says, I asked Nichol about her social media use, and she said she has not used social media since approximately 2018. Hello, the murders were in 2018, so even if she closed her social media accounts in January, that's still 2018. She looked up Shanann in 2017. So let's say Nichol did have a Facebook account. She could have closed it out after she did that search back in September 2017 and then shut it down. And remember, she asked Chris, did you shut it, like deactivate it, or did you delete it personally where you have to email Facebook or whatever it is to actually delete it? And I think that's where that comes in use, because now whatever activity she had on her Facebook account, like looking at Shanann, well, now that's erased. All her Facebook information will be erased since she deleted the entire account. And then here it says Nichol said the last used was LinkedIn, however, rarely. And this is where Nichol said she discussed with Chris shutting down his Facebook.com profile. Chris mentioned to her on Saturday, August 11th, during their dinner, that he did shut down his Facebook account. Chris said he did not use the account. Nichol asked if he had shut down the account all the way by sending a request to Facebook, and Chris did not know about this requirement. Nichol believed his account was only deactivated on August 11, 2018. Being the mistress, I think Nichol really enjoyed being the mistress. It was the thrill, the chase that she had with Chris, even though maybe they did have a very nice relationship together. But knowing that he had a wife and kids and always proclaiming she didn't want to be second place, she got that thrill that she's seeking with him, and so did he. He got the I'm cheating on my wife and I'm getting away with it. I'm so good at it and she's never going to find out. And I would guarantee that if he did not get caught, if he got away with this murder, there's no doubt in my mind they would have stayed together and they would have gotten married. Considering she was looking for wedding dresses, they were definitely planning to get married very soon. And if she did have any part in this murder, she knew about it. Anything, they were definitely going to get away with this murder and carry on with their lives like Casey Anthony does. And all these people that she spoke to on the phone with these, the call activities that I've provided here, and all the phone numbers and all those people that she called between the garbage and the Anadarko people, I really hope detectives called these people and looked up who these were on her call activity. Assuming they did, but I'm not sure. But, you know, just so they can kind of get their input on Nikki and what their conversation was about. Because if it was suspicious, they could have that towards her investigation. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took me about a week to get done, so I thoroughly hope you guys enjoy this video. I do like to stick to the facts on my channel because spreading rumors only makes you look more ignorant, and I don't want my channel to look like that. These are facts. These are everything in the discovery. There's no photos of any cars or vehicles, or assuming that, oh, this is the mystery that the detectives missed, because we know the detectives and everybody got all the information that they did on this case, and they probably do have an open investigation on Nikki. But like I said, I like to provide the facts. We need to get those out there rather than spreading rumors. So let me know what you guys think below. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.